Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD, and today I have some quick and simple thank you cards for you. So I created these using some background stamping or a stamp that you can use to create a background, and I did some foiling and ink blending to create the second card here. So these were pretty easy cards to make. They didn't take too long, and I kept the insides pretty simple for you this time. As I said, these are quick and simple cards. They don't take that long to create. So I'm going to start off by using the Altenew Ditzy print stamp set. This is a bit of an older stamp set, but it is one of the really nice ones that if you make a background with it and pair it with some jewels, it looks stunning. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Altenew Pink Pearl, Coral Bliss, and Heartbeat colored inks. Those are from the Tea Party set. And then I'm going to be using this Sweet Leaf and Minty Mint, which is from the Green Meadows ink set from Altenew. So I'm using the pinks for the flowers, and I'm going to be using the greens for the leaves. I'm sorry, my head gets in the way a lot here because I am using an acrylic block rather than stamping with a MISTI. So it does take a bit of lining up, and you really have to look at your stamp from right over the top to make sure you're lining it up properly. But I will mention that this stamp set is pretty forgiving. Even though you do kind of have to line up at least the first two flower bits, the rest of it is pretty much forgiving. You can kind of stamp a little off here and there. I think actually the first bit of leaves that I stamped, I kind of did it wrong, so I kind of had to stamp half of it to kind of even it out. So I mean, even if you wanted to just stamp the flowers out and then the leaf pieces, you can kind of fit them in anywhere you want. So it works out well. You don't have to kind of stick to the whole lining it up exactly. And there is a guide on the back of the package that shows you exactly how to line up the stamps. I would say this one is pretty much one of the easier ones to line up, not too hard. Once you figure it out, you find out where all the little notches are that the stamps line up at. It doesn't really take you too long once you get going. So I showed you how I stamped out the first one there pretty slowly, and then all I did was kind of fill in all the white space as much as I could with some more bunches of the same flowers. And as you can see, I'm stamping this from the top down. So the bottom part of my card, I'm leaving it a bit more white because I'm going to be putting my sentiment in there in the bottom left corner. So I'm stamping as much as I can with the actual flowers, the floral images, and then so I get an idea of where my sentiment is going to go, I'm going to have to stop and stamp my sentiment out, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to be using the Altenew Camellia Build-A-Flower set, and it has this really nice thank you sentiment on it. So I'm just going to stamp that out with some VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink, and again, I'm just going to use my acrylic block. I mean, you have the bottom edge to kind of line that up, so it's not really too hard to do. And then once that's stamped out, I still have a bit of white, so I'm just gonna use the florals to stamp out some more flowers and leaves and the other white spaces there. I stamped out I think 2 more there. And then I'm going to move on to my second card. For this, I'm using the Pink Fresh Studio Folk Garden hot foil plate along with some Spellbinders silver foil. I did the foiling off screen because I mean, it's just your simple foiling. I'm using the Spellbinders Glimmer system, and I'm just using basic foiling techniques. So I'm going to start with my foiled image by doing the stenciling. So this beautiful folk garden set comes with, well, it doesn't come with, but it does have coordinating stencils. It has a coordinating stamp set, and it also has coordinating dies. But in this case, I'm just going to be using the plate for the foiling and these stencils to do my ink blending. So I'm using some Altenew Lagoon ink here for my first layer, and I'm not doing complete coverage. And I found that even though I kind of wanted to have a gradient in darker areas and lighter areas for this, it tended to even out because that's the way the Altenew inks are. They tend to look splotchy at first, but the color nicely evens out on your cardstock as it dries. So I decided to add that shading by using some of this Tide Blue Altenew ink to create a bit of the shadows at the bottoms and the edges of these leaves, which creates such a nice effect. And the magic happens when you remove the stencil there, and that looks so pretty. So now I'm going to add the second stencil. So that was all with just the first stencil. And I'm going to use the same technique. So I'm using a color darker here in within this set. So I'm using the emerald, which is a bit darker than the maroon. I think it's the darkest color in this set. And these are the little details of the leaves. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to end up using the next darkest color in that blue set, which is the Starlight Blue. And again, I'm just going to blend this ink more into the bottoms of these detailed pieces because I want a bit of a gradient. And that's the final result that you get there. So next I have the flowers. So there's another 2 more stencils for the flowers. And first I'm going to use Altenew Peach Perfect ink. And there's only like 3 little areas here to blend or ink blend. And then after that, you have like another 5 little openings to do. And I'm going to use 2 colors to create a gradient, just like I did with the leaves. I'll be using the Mango Smoothie, which is a nice yellow, a nice... it's not too bright, but it's bright enough. And then I'm going to be adding Cotton Candy. Now this is a nice pink, and when mixed with the mango, it creates a nice like orangey hue, which gives you a nice gradient from the pink to orange to yellow. So once I've got all my ink down, I tend to actually wipe off my stencils. I didn't show that here, but I do that before I pull them off. And then there's your final result. So here's what you have in the end. And I'm actually using the sentiment, which I foiled and cut out ahead of time. This is from the Pink Fresh Studio Perfect Sentiments foil plate and die set. I use some Spellbinders Aura foil for that. And basically I foil those ahead of time and then keep them aside. And for the insides of my cards, what I did is I used some Spellbinders Essential Rectangles. These are hot foil plates as well. And I foiled them on some white cardstock with some rose gold pink and some silver foil to match the front of the cards. And now I'm showing you that I'm using this Sweet Peas Altenew stamp set to stamp out the thank yous on the center of these white pieces. Now I'm using separate pieces rather than foiling the actual inside of my card because it's just easier to use on your foiling machine rather than sticking a whole card base through your die cutting machine when you're adding pressure. So I'll just attach the front here. And I have already attached the front to this nice pink piece of cardstock. So I used Recollections cardstock, so that's a nice light pink. And then there's also this cream or off-white color I have over here for the other panel. And I'm just using some Tombow dot runner to adhere these to the insides of my cards. So this is a simple inside, like if you've seen the insides of my cards that I do, this is a really simple one. And this is what makes this a nice and quick method. And they're still nice and elegant because I'm using that foil, which gives it that nice look. So I'll just stick these both on the inside of my cards, and I'm not done yet. As you know, if you know any of my videos, I have to include embellishments. So I'm using Pink Fresh Studio Jewels Mix. I'm using the pink and the white iridescent jewels here. And I'm just using some Barely Art glue. And I know a lot of people kind of put their glue and then add their jewel. I just kind of throw caution to the wind and I just put all my little glue dots all over where I think I'd want them. And then I add my jewels on afterwards and just hope it looks good. And so this is what I did here, and I'm going to use the same technique with the next card. And for this card, I'm going to be using these AB Crystal Lolly beads. These are from Amazon, and I've linked them in my blog, along with all the other supplies that I've used. So I'm just going to add these in the same manner. So if you are looking for any of the supplies that I've used here, I will link them in my blog below, and you can go ahead and have a look at that. So here's the final card. This is actually the second one I did with foiling and ink blending. And the first card that I did here was with stamping and using that Altenew background stamp, it's just a stamp that I made into a background. So those are my 2 thank you cards. And as you can see, I showed you 2 cards in 10 minutes. They really didn't take that long at all. So I hope I've inspired you here. If you did like my video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified of any further videos that I post. If you get a chance, please check out my blog. As I said, all my supplies are listed there. And there's also a bunch of other projects that you might want to take a look at, along with a couple more videos that I have here. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Have a great weekend. Bye.